In this video, you're going to be finding that I am talking about books. Many different types of books and many different types of authors. And the books and authors that I'm talking about, I did show real books, but the authors are not necessarily real, or they didn't really write those books. And I sort of talk about a couple of different things: art, food, and you may not be able to understand it fully, but I hope that you enjoy and know that what I'm talking about is pretend. Now, I also want to make something really, really clear. At the time, I had this voice that I reverted to when I wanted to pretend. And it's supposed to be like kind of an American accent, and I'm pretending to be this person whose name is Julia Esconroll. And so my voice was not my original voice at that time. And also, if you hear anything that sounds like, a speech impediment within that voice, my R's at the time were not as clear as they are now. Like, I couldn't say like R's at the beginning of words, or it would sound like an O sound when I would say, like the word words. That would be like, the R would be just replaced with an O sound. So if you do hear little glimmers of that, just know that that was going on, and that was something, an impediment that I have worked on in the past, and I can gladly say that that is better now, and I'm speaking much more clearly than I did. But that's the only thing I want to let you know before this video. Enjoy.
In this wonderful piazza, in this wonderful palace or castle, is a secret treasure. Because all over this castle is filled with books from China's favorite capital, El Capitan. And the reason is this wonderful palace is famous for El Capitan's wonderful books. The marshes are very vast in this building because there is a good repertoire of things, because there's a great deal of books, because all of these books have recipes somewhere in them. They talk about how the recipe was invented, and a lot of spices go into Indian recipes. Besides, I think that Indian cuisine is one of the most popular in Taiwan, because they also combine Indian food with China or Chinese food, and they combine it with Taiwan food. This book right here is a wonderful tribute to the greatest archery master, Mr. Kung Sun. Mr. Kung Sun was a very good writer. He wrote a book called John Russian, the Oldest of Thieves. They show some Chinese art. They show some Chinese quilting. And everybody knows that Chinese quilting goes by color, not design. This is a picture of him when he is dead, because this picture accidentally wasn't taken when he was. Because the people that were going to take a picture realized that when they went to the building, he was dead. He found them buried. But he couldn't sing a Lord Horsel song, a hum, because he was dead. So what they decided to do was they decided to put one person, and they decided to move it around because there was extra mouth, because there was only one person with a strange mouth. It was a little knob on his forehead, and that made some music. And he sang the hum, "Do I know feet not so?" And he sang all that in one piece. And in this book, there is tons of spices, because all he did was he wrote a book about many spices. Now this piece says, "Spices are my favorite thing to make on Indian cooking shows. Spices are my sauce for Indian cooking." and for Chinese cooking, because Chinese cooking is important to me, and so is Indian cooking. This book is a famous tribute to all those Indians that say, "You are just so lame on doing books, Bimbi." And they have a lot of people in this building that are touring here right now, and they're sounding like the person that was in the Royal Folking Dancing, which is in Palermo. And they're enjoying the same experiences that you and me are doing right now. So that is one of the most popular books. But I have a book about the wonderful cowboy stories and the wonderful countries. Daniel Boone was famous in this book. This is a book about Daniel Boone, but someone acting as Daniel Boone, because when this video was taped, he was not alive, because his show, his traveling exploring show, was made a while long before that. So somebody else wrote this book. Now this is about doing some cowboy songs. And I actually have this book at home, and I actually wrote the song Beepily Podloo. And I have it famous at my Minton. And Chinese cattling is not the same from the cattling you are used to doing at the ranch. Because cattling in China was like harga, harga, harga. And it was like in Egypt, because in Egyptian countrysides and villas and stinky villages and beaches, they enjoy making clock towers, and horses go around those towers in China, Egypt, and India. So that is a wonderful book of Daniel Boone, imitation. Now down here we have a collection of Manu chapters. This is a collection of sacred journeys across China, because I'm at the library right now, and you can find a bunch of things like this. And this one says International Product Featured, which means that the national product is not okay to use, because this book is actually a book written in blood. Now you see red on this book. The reason it was written in blood, because this book was made at a very his time, because Hitler the First, he designed blood to be in this book, and he was rude. So the limit creator said, "I will not announce any more pizza." They decided to erase it, but he tried to make sure it wouldn't, because it was a Sharpie, a blood Sharpie, and it was a marker that was very permanent and would not come off. So he got used to it for the next few days. And in this book is a big word that says, "Vomit the man from historical limited limonsies." And what the word limonsies means is that no one goes to those very places anymore, because in China they used to have some opera singers. Because one time there was an opera singer that was singing all this fashion, and she was singing all kinds of different folk opera songs. But in those days, she had to use what she said, because she forgot, and she messed up on a lot of them, but she didn't make a mistake, because she just went on and did the opera, with fee and contingency. So we're going to set that book aside, because right here is another good book that is a tribute to all citizens. This says, Danger of Dreams. Now, the word danger of dreams means that you're walking into a door. Now, I read a book once about someone destroying a door, and it actually popped alive. And she opened that door, and it was a world of woods, and it was a world of lights, some wonderful white lights and yellow lights too. And she found that she was in a boat, and she went down the river fall backwards. And this book has the story of her in here. And I'll read to you the most exhilarating part. It's right here. All she did was she tried to avoid the continent, but she was having such a good time that she fell right down. The minute she fell, she had to draw a balloon to get herself from sea level to artificial altitude in the sky. So, this book is a fairy tale book, a Chinese fairy tale book, because her mother was Chinese, and she was in the same piazza, and she was actually doing this several times. So that's my subscription second copy. And the other copy, which was dedicated to this palace, or this castle, was a book about men getting lost. Now, this book is really not a book that you should order in a library. This book is a story about someone was painting, someone was doing a Turkish to Chinese artisan, and she actually dropped the Chinese artisan because he got zero. Now, in Mr. Perkins, that's the same too. He just did a painting and then it dropped. That's exactly what happened. That's why this story says, dropped and enjoyed for very little time. And you know why, don't you? Because I just told you. And inside this book, I actually scripted some Mr. Perkins information. I got Beanie Setter to do all the work with that. And this book is dedicated to the Marilli family, because the Marilli family was famous for painting, because they made paintings about the sun setting. Their favorite sunset was the African sunset. It was the African sunrise or sunshine, because they liked the song, The African Sunrise. And they actually liked to listen to it all on the radio, because they thought it was so dedication to those people who say, you know something, that sunset is really beautiful. I really want to see something like that sometime. That's why there was a song in this book that says The African Sunset. And there's a chapter or the story in this book that says The African Sunset. In the Marilli family, they painted a portrait of the African sunset in someone flying, a fairy or a bird or a plane. So all of these books were dedicated to many wonderful families. All of them had a legend. All of them had a story. All of them were Chinese, Indian, or maybe Egyptian. To this day, I recall many books. But those families don't know when their adventure's going to stop or start. They just know when you will be delighted to be in speculation tones.